Hey, listeners, thanks for tuning into the podcast. I just want to take a moment to mention the podcast sponsor, retrogamestore.com.au. Head over there for all your Game Boy refurbish and repair needs. Screens, shells, buttons, and all the bits and pieces. And there's a complete custom build made to order service as well. Also, plenty more retro gaming goodness like video cables, display stand and power supplies, controls, etc. And you can add the code PixelPie at checkout to get 10% off your order. Also, take a moment to say if you enjoyed this episode and haven't already, give it a subscribe or follow and a review where you can. And maybe you want to recommend the Pixel Pie podcast to anyone you know that would enjoy it. That'd be really appreciated. So thanks for listening, and now let's get on with the show.
Hi, I'm Jamesyplays, and you're listening to the Pixel Pie podcast.
G'day, Jamesy. How you doing, brother?
I'm really well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem at all. Thank you for taking the time. Some people probably don't appreciate what it's like to try and schedule, between time zones and stuff. But we've had a bit of a juggle, and we've got kids and jobs. And I just had a massive storm go over, and I nearly called it off again. But here we are, mate. So thank you so much for being so flexible. Yeah,
I was just going to say we've bounced around a few dates now, and it's really great to actually finally meet you, Scott. So
likewise, mate. Likewise. It's the best we can do in this day and age, and it's actually pretty good. Could you imagine if the world went to shit like it did, like even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we'd have none of this. We'd all be very lonely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's remarkable how far we've come in 10 years.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's almost,
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, it's almost ironic because with the technology, we've had so much accessibility to the world. You look at travel, and you can only travel because there's the ability to kind of get on your phone and what if this and buy these flights and even just going to a shop and buying something. That's all because of technology. And then if it wasn't for that technology, though, we kind of wouldn't be aware of what we're missing out on these days. Yeah, we'd have to stay at home. But I think people sometimes forget that, our grandparents, for you guys in the UK, like London, there was a time where no one left their house and the place got the shit bombed out of it for days and days and days on end. So, at least we've got Xboxes and stuff to keep us busy, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, where we are in Birmingham, we had that as well. So, my nan was a young girl at the time.
Yeah,
and we absolutely got bombed the hell out of. So she's got some great stories. So
and she's like, I don't know what you're on about. At least your food's not rationed and you're not eating your shoes and all this other stuff.
Pretty much exactly that. You've got a bed to sleep in. That's another one.
Right. So, anyway, on to more positive things. Things called Jamesyplays. So as I normally do, I sort of do a little bit of homework. I make some notes, and there's kind of three things I'm able to draw from your Instagram because it's just so awesome. I got Bayside, Saved by the Bell, and Jamesy Draws. Now, they're probably fairly recent things in the last probably, whatever year to 4 years or whatever, 5 years.
Yeah.
It's, for everybody, it's a different journey to get there. So would you be able to tell me and whoever's listening about where it all started? Did your dad throw you a Game Boy on a long road trip, or were you one of those kids that just knew what you wanted? Or I mean, you're an artist, dude. You can really draw. It's beautiful stuff. So we'll get into that as well. Yeah, just let us in on how Jamesy became Jamesyplays.
Right. So I'm older than people probably expect I am. A lot of people sort of think I'm a little bit younger than I am. So
That's good.
I'm actually it is. I mean, I'm 38 this year.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite as old as you, Scott. Sorry.
No, not quite.
I'm my wise father in this.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, I ended up having a Game Boy in about 1990, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I remember having it with Tetris and Super Mario Land, and basically I wasn't allowed video games. So I had quite a strict upbringing. So I wasn't really allowed to have things. But my birthday is sort of October, so it's really close to Christmas. So
yeah.
I always had to sort of choose whether I had like a decent present for my birthday or a decent present for Christmas, even back then.
Screwed over.
But I think it was like just my family had chipped in to get me a Game Boy because it was like one I've really wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, the spoiler in all this is that my mate had a Game Gear, and like I loved that. And so I played on his Game Gear when I went round to his house. So like I really wanted a Game Gear.
Yeah.
But they were like tons more expensive.
Yeah.
So obviously I got a Game Boy, and probably looking back on it, I was probably a bit like disappointed that it was like not as good as the Game Gear or whatever.
Yeah, the technology was very different with the color and the backlight and that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I think actually in my journey through everything, that Game Boy was really the start of a lot of things for me.
Yeah.
So I've always had Nintendo consoles. The only other console I've ever had is a PlayStation 2, right. One of the slim ones. And I literally only had that to play Metal Gear Solid 2.
Right.
And that is the only PlayStation game I've ever played.
Oh, really?
It's the only PlayStation.
Wow, such a fanboy. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm like a proper OG fanboy with Nintendo stuff. But then it sort of started from there, and I picked up a Super Nintendo a few years later, and then a Game Boy Color, and then after that I'd started earning my own money. So I remember sitting outside a game shop for the release of the GBA. I remember sitting outside the game shop for the release of the GameCube.
Oh wow!
Completely glossing over the fact that I had a Nintendo 64, which like ripped the piss out of me for because it wasn't a PlayStation. But everybody wanted to come around and play GoldenEye. So,
of course they did.
So well, that's it. I mean, like we've always been like a little Nintendo family almost. So we've always had it, and we've always shared between like my sisters. But then obviously things like game art. So I did lots of drawing when I was younger.
Yeah.
And that sort of pushed me into the sort of career that I'm on. Yeah. So I've been a graphic designer now for probably about 20 years.
Right.
So like a lot of my formative years of doing graphic design, I drew a lot of inspiration from sort of the things that I liked when I was a kid. So things like 90s style, that Memphis sort of style. It sort of just permeated through all of my career really, and it's been a really nice creative platform to jump off from really.
So the sort of the stuff like I have two questions. The first question is, what do you think was the trigger and all of a sudden you were allowed to have a computer console in your life? Like, what do you think happened? Did you just grind them down?
No, I think they probably just didn't talk to my dad because
it was like
my dad was a very strict person. Yeah, so my dad was a very strict person. I don't really have anything to do with him now, but but it was one of those that it sort of it was just a bit of like a special gift, I think.
Oh, it's
beautiful. And I think on my Instagram as well, there's a picture of me on my 9th birthday, sat with my granddad.
Yeah.
So like my granddad was like my father figure, and I'm showing. I know exactly the game I'm showing him how to play as well. I'm showing him how to play Batman on the Game Boy.
I see it. Yep, your 9th birthday in your little flannel.
Yeah, don't look. Yeah, my little shirt on and everything. But he was like a massive influence.
It's interesting, isn't it, that like you expressed about the sort of strict dad and just sort of, I guess that sort of like not being able to have these things, and then when it comes, that gift came to you with so much love. So this object takes on a whole new world to, we had everything, and the Game Boy was one of them. And I guess for you then, and looking at stuff like this photo of you and your granddad, that is freaking that's pure. Yeah, that's real nostalgia. Like, it's easy to have nostalgia for stuff that you knew was around, but that's pure nostalgia for you and your granddad. And look at him. He's like, I'll watch my 9-year-old with her granddad, and she'll show him all sorts of stuff, and he's just nodding and smiling. And He has no idea what's going on, but God, he loves just being there, you know. And she knows that, and she knows that he's not really listening, but he'll just do it all day. So, yeah. So that would give that.
He absolutely loved it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So getting on to sort of you're talking about the 90s stuff and obviously the graphic art and the Bayside and the Save the Bell stuff. So did you, because I understand that in the UK, all you ever watch is Neighbours from Australia and Kylie Minogue and that sort of stuff. So how did this sort of art come into your life and then become something that, you know, you really put onto the Game Boys and old Nokias and all sorts of stuff?
Yeah, so you are right. We are completely obsessed by Neighbours.
It's
I remember
terrible.
being really obsessed with. I remember being really, really obsessed with Neighbours, and I honestly think my first crush was Kylie Minogue.
And mine, mate, and mine. She's a good Aussie girl.
Well, I think she still is a crush, to be honest.
Yeah.
She ages like stupendously well. She's obviously got a picture somewhere that's like decrepit and sort of like decaying while she gets younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we didn't have like more than 4 channels for most of my childhood.
Yeah.
So like we didn't have cable, we didn't have Sky.
Yeah. Was it like BBC 1, 2, 3, and 4 sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was BBC 1, BBC 2, ITV, and then Channel 4. And I think it was Channel 4 that used to have sort of like on a Sunday morning programs that like for sort of kids. It wasn't like really kiddie programs or anything. Yeah. So I remember watching Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Another one which you guys probably will know is Pugwall. Is it Pugwall? He was like
no, not familiar.
It was like an Australian show, and he was like in his own little band or something.
Oh, fair enough.
I think. And I just remember really watching that. Saved by the Bell, I used to watch like constantly, and we got like so we used to like record and stuff.
Yeah.
So when it was on, so that I'd got something to watch like when there wasn't anything on.
Yeah.
And it was just one program that I always remember just watching all the time. Loved Zach Morris. Always wanted to be Zach Morris.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever get as buff as AC Slater and stuff. Yeah. And then obviously Tiffany Amber Thiessen, who played Kelly Kapowski. I think that was my second crush. So
I think
there's a lot of formative.
We swapped you. You got Neighbours, and we got like, was it Coronation Street or something?
Oh God, that's a bad swap.
Oh man, it just made me sad. Everybody's all depressed, and I was like, oh, that seems like a really sad place to live. I think it was like really. And Neighbours was like everybody had tans and backyard swimming pools, so no wonder you dug it.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. I remember I actually had I had surgery when I was younger. I had like teeth taken out,
right,
and like they completely knocked me out. And then when I came round, like I was obviously like so dazed and confused, and then looked at the clock and I was like, I haven't missed Neighbours. So like that was like my first thought of coming out of being absolutely put under to have this operation, was that I hadn't missed Neighbours. I couldn't watch Neighbours. There was no TV in this hospital or anything, but in my head I'd not missed it. So.
Yeah, the FOMO was real. Yeah. So firstly, have you still got that original Game Boy, the one with your granddad?
Do you know what? I don't.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked.
No. It's a massive regret of mine, is that like I don't tend to have as many many things from my childhood as I probably would like.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's as you get older, you realise the significance of certain things, and like with having my little girl now and stuff, it's there's certain things that she's had that we definitely chuck away, but like I'm like, no, let's just keep that little toy because she'll want to see that when she's older. We've got pictures with her.
Yeah. My daughter has one of those my daughter has one of these it's like a pound puppy, but it's by a different company. And so my daughter's 9 and my wife's just over 40. So my wife had this when she was a tiny kid.
Yeah.
And this dog has been like through 6 countries, and we have like left him at places and been places, and you really see the attachment that the child has to a thing. And my wife very much about minimalism and trying to sell stuff. And every time she bags stuff up, my daughter and I go through it. We're like, no, 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 no. And like, you look around, I got nearly 30 Game Boys and consoles and all sorts of shit. Like my poor wife, she's a keeper because she lets my daughter and I just collect shit willy-nilly. And you do, yeah. Like I had like a pretty sort of a roaming mum and 6 primary school. So the shirts I own now are probably the oldest thing I've got, kind of thing, you know. So you start to realize it's nice when you can hang on to something that meant something. Yeah. So after the Game Boy, you got some SNES action and then the GameCube and things like that. And then what's the arc sort of getting to, I guess, where James is today, you know, through that graphic art? And did it kind of happen together, or was it sort of a few years ago, you're like, I'm going to just mash this shit into one pile of awesome?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just came about just sort of just really weirdly. So I did a lot of. So I'm also like really into Transformers.
Good
80s kid. So I've got like those are some of the things I've got from my childhood. I've still got a couple of my original Transformers and stuff. So I was doing a lot of arts for Transformers and like selling it at conventions and stuff. But sort of there's always just something that I always connected with like that Game Boy. So like I'd searched out and it's probably a couple of years ago now, I'd searched out a way of being able to play them. I'd found a couple of like some of our older consoles. So like I'd found like my old GBA, I'd found my old Game Boy SP and stuff, and I'd had like a DS, and I've got like a bunch of DSs because, as you know, they like just fall apart by just looking at them sometimes. They're literally the least hardy console,
and they're cheap now at the moment. Like I can pick one up for about $30-$40 at the moment. I'm like, maybe I should start buying them. That does something will happen, and you know, the macro is a thing. But it
was actually the macro that got me back into it.
Right.
So I just stumbled onto some articles about them and sort of looked at them, and I was like, these are really cool, but they're not sort of my style. So Joe Bleeps has done the Neon Advance, and I think it was that one that I'd sort of seen in an article, and I was like, this looks really cool, but it's not me. So like my design style sort of as a graphic designer is quite minimalist and quite sort of retro, quite sort of very clean graphics, and I thought this isn't quite me.
So the space in between that sort of, you know, that accentuates the things everywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was like, I really want to do one of these macros, but if I'm going to do it, I want to do like my macro, and I want it to remind me of the Game Boy that I had, the colors and all that sort of stuff. So that was like the first thing I did. And it's probably like, if you scroll back on my Instagram and stuff, there's like the very first one I did that I didn't have like acrylic rod the right size or anything. So I improvised in what I got around the house, and I think it was a pen tube.
Yeah, cool.
It just so happened I've got a pen tube which was exactly the right size.
That's cool.
And everything.
What's the normal deal with those acrylic rods? Like, they seem to be lit and things. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So I think, and you're asking me a technical question here, Scott, and you'll probably find that I don't know many technical answers.
Mate, well, you and I are together.
Definitely not Natalie.
It's just you and me, and you can tell me anything. Yeah,
so I think people have hooked up an LED at the one end, and so you can get a light emitting acrylic rod. Yeah. So when you look at it, it sort of like glows at the ends.
Yeah, right.
So they'll shine that LED through. I mean, I'm quite good at the material side. That's something, because I used to teach and lecture in graphics and design and stuff.
Right.
So that sort of helps me understand a lot of it. But I just really wanted to make it sort of my own macro and be sort of my sort of thing. And then like I posted it on Instagram, and like I thought it did really well at the time, because obviously I had an Instagram of like a personal account where I'd probably get like 3 likes or something constantly.
Yeah.
And I think this got sort of like 50 odd likes, and I was like, oh, I'm going viral here. Little did I know, like, but I actually I think I posted it on Reddit, and it did really well there. And like, I had quite a few people encouraging me to like go further with it and see if there's any other ways we can do it. And yeah, it just sort of snowballed from there, really. So I took it very much like sort of as a design project in some respects. So I would design them up first and then build them. And it was.
It's interesting you say that. There was a fellow I used to sort of hang around with the Gunpla, and like the world of Gunpla, the Japanese robot models. You can build them and then you can paint them. And then there's the customization. I'd been to a couple in Sydney. Naturally, they have this GBWC, the Gunpla Builders World Cup, and it's all about customizing. So instead of just having like this big square shoulder, they'll engrave it and etch it and add to it and build on it and plate it and stuff. And Josh would get it in CAD and do it and flip it and spin it and then, throw light on it in a design piece of software. And then go, oh, okay. Now, as opposed to hack away and go for 4 days and go, well, that looks shit. So it's clearly you're that similar sort of person where I can get a lot done on paper before I even hit the tools, which is super productive.
I think it's just the background I'm in. So like
he's a graphic designer and a teacher, so like it's just so eerily similar, Yeah. And then as I keep nudging, all of a sudden there's this cool sort of Bayside stuff. Where's the word actual Bayside come from? Because as soon as I see it, I just see Miami Vice.
Yeah, so Bayside was the school in Saved by the Bell.
Oh, right. So, I'm not familiar. Sorry.
No, that's cool. I mean, like, so to me, it was just like, it started out as a bit of a personal thing. And then Retro Modding got in touch and said we'd love to print some of these, and then it sort of snowballed.
Is that these guys?
And like, that is those guys, yeah.
I just today got my second Easy Flash Junior from those guys. So I'm in Australia. No. Like, this is a little gentle plug, and it was like 2 weeks because I own a color and a pocket, and you can't just have one Easy Flash Junior. You got to have one for each because it's really hard to swap cartridges when you're a lazy old fart. So yeah. So I didn't want to interject, but yeah, those guys are pretty rad.
No, that's cool. So I started doing a bit with Retro Modding with them. They had like, obviously mid pandemic last year. They obviously had like issues with getting stuff shipped out and things because obviously like borders were being closed. The same problem we're still having now is that like things aren't shifting as quickly because there's not as many flights and stuff like that, and many little boundaries. But then once that sort of settled down, there was just like an explosion of people doing these Baysides, and it was like really humbling, really, just to sort of see that so many people like the design and were picking them up. I think Peg City has probably got like at least about 20 of them.
Fairly good.
He's done for like commissions.
He's a beast.
And I always say that he takes better pictures of my work than I do. So
that's good. That's good.
He's like spot on with them.
Yeah. Have you do you play much?
Yes. So I don't play sort of modern stuff anymore.
No, that's fine.
Well, I tell a lie. I've got a Switch.
Yeah.
Of course I have. And Breath of the Wild, I spent a lot of time on. And like Zelda for me has always been another one of those always there things. Like, you could take Mario away. I mean, as much as I'd hate losing Mario 64 and that memory of playing that for the first time, Zelda has just always just been such an important franchise for me. From playing it as a kid, playing it through like sort of like my teenage years and stuff like that, and then I'd sort of dipped out of it for a while because I played Twilight Princess and didn't. I know everybody loves Twilight Princess.
Is that the GameCube one?
Yeah, so it's the one with the wolf and
the horse at the start and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it, but I didn't love it. And then the Skyward Sword, I just couldn't get into. And then I ummed and ahed over Breath of the Wild for so long because I thought, I don't know whether I want to ruin the sort of my memories of Zelda gone by.
Sure.
And then I picked it up and I couldn't put it down. And I honestly think it's one of the best games ever made. Which again is probably a controversial opinion, but
it's an opinion, so it's relevant.
There we are.
It's fine. It's funny that, isn't it? Like, there's so much joy to be had, and everybody wants to come. Well, not everybody. This is what I really love about this community, is there's the least amount of just kind of grinding together of gears that I've seen in any gaming, like any other gaming. You know, there's always just this sort of ego, and this is better and that's better, and I think it's coming full circle, at least in the stuff that I watch and listen to, and that people are starting to realize, like, you know what, he gives a shit, and especially in this day and age when we're reviewing things that are 30 years old, you've got to keep it all in perspective, and as long as these companies keep fooling us into thinking that they respect it too, they'll give us what we want. So that's entirely fine, eh? Yeah. Have you ever got into any Metroid?
I remember playing Super Metroid. I glossed over that when I was probably on the SNES. It was probably a bit too difficult for me at the time. But I went back and played through that on the Switch Virtual Console. Then Metroid Prime, I loved. But now I can't play it. Like first person shooters. I don't know whether it's like as I'm getting older. It's the motion. I just can't deal with it. So
I fired that for the first time the other day, Metroid Prime, just sort of because I'm a solid Metroid fan, and I was like, I'll give this a go. And it still felt like it, but I'm the same. It's like, they're over there, and you got to hold shoulder buttons to turn and stuff like that. I've just started playing Samus Returns. Like, I couldn't do the NES one. I can't do mapping and stuff. And the SNES one, even I was like, I still need a map, and it's tricky. But Zero Mission, probably the best game I've played. I'm not a big gamer, but Zero Mission, I just couldn't put it down. I was like, lunch breaks before work. I go to work 20 minutes early, tell my wife I got to start early, and sitting in the car firing away. And then Samus Returns, which is effectively Super Metroid on a 3DS, which is super gorgeous. I don't own a Switch. Like, it's the same. It feels that sort of like, I just want to see what's down this tunnel and just find out what this dude's doing here. And it's just, it's beautiful. It's a real adventure. And it's nice when you find something like that kind of, like you said with Zelda, you're like, I just don't want to stop. This is awesome.
That's it. And Pokemon as well. I mean, like, obviously we've had a massive boom in popularity of Pokemon at the moment, and like you'll be like me, you'll remember that boom first time round, and like,
oh, not really, hey, not really.
Was it not like that over there?
No, I didn't really know what Pokemon was until like 2 or 3 years ago. My daughter and I started playing Pokemon Go, and I was like we were in Japan like 3 years ago, and we went to the Pokemon sort of center in Tokyo, and we knew what they were. I knew what a Pikachu was, and all that sort of stuff. And we sort of just bought some stuff because we're like, we're probably not going to get back here too soon. And it wasn't until like we did Singapore last year, and at Singapore Airport is the Pokemon Center there. And, oh my dude, we were right in it then. We were like chest deep in Pokemon at the time, and so we just spent way too much money on shit there. But yeah, I mean, Pokemon seems to be part of every person's life that had a Game Boy. Like, it might have saved the Game Boy.
Oh, it totally did. I mean, that was, in fact, Pokemon Red was my first imported game.
Right.
So I must have been like a teenager at the time.
Yeah.
And I picked it up, and nobody knew what it was over here. It hadn't hit the UK yet.
Yeah.
So like, I was playing it. I was like showing my mates. My mates were like. Even though it was like on a Game Boy and stuff, they were like super into it. And
right.
Like, oh, God. And so I ended up going back and getting the imported version of Pokemon Blue.
Yeah.
So I had 2, and then I could play with my mates. I could trade the Pokemon and all that sort of stuff. And I remember like answering adverts in like, so we had like official Nintendo magazine over here.
Yeah.
So at the time, like I suppose it's like the UK version of Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's still running or anything, but I remember I'm having this little thing in the back, sort of like, do you like Pokemon? Do you want to attend a Pokemon event or something? And
do I ever?
I remember writing into it. Yeah, I remember writing into it and not really thinking anything about it. But it was around when Pokemon Stadium had come out for the N64.
Yeah.
and they were doing like Mew giveaways. So like you went in with your cart, you put Mew on there. So yeah, I ended up doing that, and
we could
spent like a weekend in I think it was a Burger King or something like that. Just sat showing other kids how to play Pokemon and Pokemon Stadium, and then giving them a Mew. And I think I said on the Retro Dodo podcast as well, is that like I harvested so many of those onto my cartridge, and I was like 50p a time. So like all my mates had it. I had like about 10, 15 of them.
Oh wow.
It was a little business enterprise before business enterprises had even got into my head.
Well played.
Yeah. So it was just little things like that. Like through sort of my gaming history is pretty cool, really.
Yeah, I agree.
There was a massive chunk where I just didn't do anything with gaming. I really dipped out of it, and things like work and things probably took over. And it was, like I say, it was probably only about 2 or 3 years ago I really got back into it. And the retro stuff it just sits with me so well.
Yeah, it's time consuming when you want to do it the way you want to do it, and you want to do it right. I've already spoken with so many people that are just so frigging artistically talented, and I don't think anybody can really sort of say in words what it takes to create this, because unless you're an artist and you know that you have a vision and you have skills, and sometimes you fall short, and you talk to like Kelsey from yesterday's tech, like she would bin shells because it's just not working, or I'd have to clean it. Yeah. And so you guys, it's just like it's both a skill and a burden to be artistically creative.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because like I look at it as well in that I would love to be like some of the people I see on Instagram who can like churn console after console out, and they've always got like something fresh to be showing people and stuff like that. Whereas I'm very, very methodical in the way I do things, and like I don't want to show things off if it's not right. I take my time. I'll probably take a lot longer than I probably need, but then I probably don't have as much free time to dedicate some of this stuff. So
you have a day job, right?
Like before the podcast, I have a day job. So I'm a graphic designer by trade, and I started working for another firm last year. So that takes up most of my time, and then my daughter and my dog, and it's as you know, considering we've had to rearrange this a fair few times, it's life's busy, isn't it? And it's busy for everybody. So
So leading into sort of work, your graphic design, would you say it's as creative as what you do with Game Boys, or is it that's the creative side, because you kind of get boxed down with your graphic designs? It's like when I spoke to Kelly, she's like, no, nothing I do on a Game Boy is nothing I do at work is exciting as what I do on a Game Boy.
It used to be really exciting, and it still is exciting in some ways, but I
don't think your boss is listening, mate, so you can be totally honest.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't put past them. So now I spend more of my time doing stuff like insurance stuff and more corporate stuff.
Right.
That's just the way that my career has gone. But for a long time, I was doing like my speciality and sort of like my area of specialism in graphic design really is more of a commercial retail based. And obviously, sort of beginning of last year, that sort of disappeared completely.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to sort of move with the tide, should we say? So I did loads of stuff that was really, really creative and sort of like out there. And I did lots of design for events, lots of designs for shops, lots of interactive experiences, and like it was more of sort of marketing and creative led, which was like great for me. I mean, like I won like 2 awards for sort of like two of the campaigns that I did, and it was quite difficult to transition from that sort of really, really creative style of graphic design to perhaps going back to more of a corporate style.
Yeah.
And I think having this sort of little outlet does help me sort of balance that missing out of doing some of the creative stuff.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I that's kind of what I was after, because I mean, often I look at people like I see you've got that awesome book by Greg Farrell, Game Boy Modding, and I think something I was trying to get from Greg was like, did you were you one day kind of like pushing out 60 Game Boys a day and then realizing, oh, now my hobby I loved is a job and I think I don't like it? And he's like, no, this is my brother's working with me now. This is the biz. We love it. And I guess for yourself, and like when I spoke to Kelly, I was like, do you kind of feel that you just get overloaded with like must create, and it's kind of, but for you guys, it's a no, because you just keep creating and doing stuff, and just everybody just loves it, and that's awesome.
I mean, yeah, I think that's right. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do have a lot of creative blocks. There's times when, so like, you've pretty much had like all of our little Game Boy gang on your podcast already. So like,
yeah, I walked into the right bar, that's for sure. Eh?
Yeah. Sam, Kelsey, Kelly, we've all sort of like been chatting for a long time now, and they'll probably tell you the amount of times I will just message them and be like, guys, I'm literally just stuck. Yeah. I can't think of anything at the moment. And it's really just having that support network sometimes, and you just sort of like bounce ideas off of each other, and it sort of gets you over that creative hump that sort of you do. I don't want anybody ever to think that like that isn't a real thing that happens, and that people can just churn this out all the time. Like there's times where I've just sat down and gone, I have nothing to post, I have nothing to build, I have nothing to do at the moment. I can't get my head around anything. I'm just going to stop for a bit. And I think that's another important thing with all this, is that people who are doing loads and loads. I mean, like Greg's possibly the best people I've ever spoken to, and he's obviously really entrenched in doing what he does, and he really, really enjoys it. And I think with me is if I'm doing it to the point where I'm not enjoying something, or it's creating a problem of, it's frustrating me that I can't do something, just put it down and walk away for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best thing, really. And I don't know whether this is worldwide, but at the minute over here it's Mental Health Week.
Right.
So really, a lot of this started from me trying to just balance out my mental health. So I've always been quite open with it with people, is that I've throughout my life have really suffered with mental health issues.
Yeah.
And this has been like an amazing outlet for me, just to sort of switch off or just sort of like tune myself into something else.
That's great.
But when those sort of problems do arise, like where you do get a creative block, instead of it just being like, oh, I can't think of anything, I'll just put it down for a little bit. Sometimes you'll start overthinking it, and you'll be thinking further. Perhaps nobody likes anything I do, and like it's that thing that it was a demon that runs in a lot of people, that
the black dog.
You can't convince yourself that what you're doing is right, or anything like that. So I've always sort of said to people, like, all of this is generally just to do with helping me sort of fill that void in my head of where I could get those mental health issues and how it could get worse. So it's something that I've always sort of said to people, like, just have a go at it. Like, even if you're not really into doing any of this sort of stuff, have a go at building a macro, have a go at doing something in a game, or something really non-complicated in the
just reshell something. It doesn't take much. Like, it's interesting, kind of, sorry to interject, but it's interesting. I think I learned this when we had our daughter, who's 9, and from about sort of 3 to 4 years on. I don't want to have you and I could probably talk dad stuff for hours and hours, but it's not until you have someone in your life that just wants to get chunks of Play-Doh and buttons and crap and just jam it together and go, look, Dad, that's a donkey. And it's not, but it is. And if you just stop and do that thing for 12 minutes, That's all you're doing. And sometimes your little wheels in your head are just revving out so hard, they're valve bouncing. If you don't stop and let them kind of cool off and just put it in neutral, and if you don't have that in your life, like you look at professional athletes that from the age of football players or gymnasts or whatever, and from the age of like 13, they're identified as excellent athletes, and they just go flat out until they're 22, 23. And all of a sudden it's like, thanks, son, we've got a new forward and we're going to kind of push you to the side. And by the time they're 25, all they've done is run on the red line. And now they've got this massive empty space in their head. And for us, we have a similar challenge by just living our lives. And the things that you're saying, I'm sure hundreds of people that are listening, well, I assume 100 people listening, it's a bit presumptuous, but people that are listening are going to be like, yeah, that's
millions.
That's right. That's why everybody I speak to almost says, I do this because it's a space I can go to. If it's creative or not, like I said, I'm not creative, but I can buy a Game Boy and I can buy a shell. And once I rewrap it, I'm like, now that's mine. I kind of made that. And it's super important that I'm really happy that you've sort of, shared that. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, with a lot of it, I just want it normalized that men have problems with mental health, because especially after this past year and the mass of mental health issues, suicide rate has gone through the roof. And like, it is still a very touchy subject that men don't like talking about it, because as they do, a lot of people think they're perceived as weak. And actually there's massive strength in actually talking about it. So that's I mean, like, if anybody ever suffers with that sort of stuff and they are on Instagram, or they follow me, or even if they don't follow me and they're listening to this, my inbox is always open for that sort of stuff. And I'll always try and make time to just have a chat with people, just make sure they're all right, and
awesome.
give them any advice that I can possibly give them, which is probably very little advice, but sometimes it's just good.
But it's from experience, it's different when you kind of, you go to work with your mate and you're like, oh, this is making me feel this. And the mate's like, oh, all right, well, that's great. Let's go to the pub on Wednesday. You're like, oh, that's cool. And you kind of don't really acknowledge it, really. You just, he wants to be a mate and acknowledge it and maybe try and distract you. But in reality, when you're speaking with someone that's openly saying, yeah, I've had some hard yards, and that makes a massive difference. And like going back there maybe to that photo of you and your granddad, like that's a very special moment. And I envy you to have that little kind of crack in the door, so that when it does get a bit shut, you're like, I can just look in through there. And I guess the Game Boy as a talisman, it doesn't surprise me that you've really fallen on it, because every time you pick one up, somewhere in the back of your mind, you remember that moment with your granddad, surely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that picture is literally a photograph of of it. I've still got it in a little frame somewhere. I mean, like, my granddad was like an amazing person, and I think a lot of my creative sort of side comes from him, in a weird way. So he was like, he used to work for a rubber company in Birmingham, which sounds like ridiculous where we go from there. But he knew absolutely everything, to the point where like Rolls-Royce were trying to hire him for the rubbers on their engines and their jet engines. And he never took those opportunities because of his family, because he had a family and he didn't want to move them. Like, in the grand scheme of things, where we are now as a global sort of world we are, and how everything is so accessible, well, outside of these sort of times, the decision for him to try and move from Birmingham to Derby, which is probably about an hour difference, was like, no way, this would never happen. So like now I'd be like, something like a big company offered me something like that, I'd be like, yeah. They were like offering to buy him a house and everything, and he was like, oh, I feel really sort of indebted to the people I work with, and like, I think with that, he always sort of said to me, like, I do regret that a little bit. I know I've always sort of like remembered him sort of saying that, and sort of it's always like pushed me on to do a bit more, and like he had his creative output in that he used to it's going to sound really weird. He used to race pigeons.
We've all heard of that. Yeah.
It's like proper old man sort of thing. But he built like these like aviaries and everything out in his back garden. Yeah. And I just remember he used to sit down with him and he'd like literally plan them out, drawing them out on note paper and measuring them out. And that's really where I got into all of what I do. I used to, like my nan says to me all the time, like, you used to just like take everything apart. Like if there was something I could take apart, I'd take it apart. Probably wouldn't know how to put it back together, but I'd be able to take it apart.
Well, that wasn't your goal, was it? Your goal was to take it apart.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to see what was inside. So,
victory is mine. Are you you know, we've got a few in the community that are really technically minded. Are you a technical Game Boy modder, or is yours sort of more aesthetic? I mean, can you do an LCD and you know, some amps and stuff, but you know, because there's some pretty crazy stuff in here. I'm looking at some of your stuff and it's like there's more than just Game Boy reshelling.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best answer is I'll give anything a go with this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's some brilliant people who've helped me sort of like do certain things. So where I put the DS into the pocket before, this was like last year, and like the amount of people who said to me, can you show us how to do it and stuff? I was like, just don't do it.
Not like, really, no.
Yeah, it destroyed me for like 2 or 3 months.
Oh,
wow. I had to get it done just for the sake of, I've started it. Yeah. Now I'm going to finish it. But it was a nightmare. But Zypher Design on Instagram really, really helped me with that. And like, he's a pretty underrated guy on Instagram, I think. Zypher. So XIPHER.
Right.
_design.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have seen recently he's doing like one of those unhinged GBAs. So he's come up with a design where the carts go in the top rather than the bottom. So it makes it a bit more like a normal Game Boy. But he was like super, super helpful all the way through that. And I've just had a lot of people like that. And like, luckily, if I got stuck, someone's just been able to help me. But I'm nowhere near the level of some of the people, even you've had on here. So like, I envy Natalie's sort of
everybody has
technical ability.
Everybody has their strengths, you know, and that's what I love about it. That everybody like you comes on here and says, "Oh, I've got nothing compared to so and so and so and so." Like that's, there's some people that think their poop don't stink, and they want you to know, and I haven't met any yet in this community. So it's, I love that.
Yeah.
There's a few builds on here that I want to talk about because I freaking love them, and it's it's the simple things that make me happy, but things like I think it's when I see someone take something that is simple but is super effective, and I'm like, whoa, that I want. There's one thing is the DK DMG, and it's just bananas. Like, not like that's bananas, dude. It's just all like sort of pencil lined bananas on I guess the shells you like, and just a DK. Like that is, sometimes you guys can take what is a 30-year-old piece of kit and make it look like it should be in a shop window now. It's bananas. The other one I really like, just because I'm a mega fan. I don't know why, because I never quite get it, is the Akira shell. Like I love the movie, but every time I watch it, I'm like, this kind of hurts. It's sad and it's angry and I end up falling asleep. But I watch it all the time. But things about this, like you've got the bike and the Akira, and then down the right hand side is that kind of like there's like the kanji, and then some. It's like a sort of a sketchy sort of streak, and it's just it's really nice. That's bananas in the descriptive way. You've got lots of other stuff. There's a lot of player wave stuff in here that I've seen, the Kirby's and the Gengars and a lot of Pokemon stuff. So yeah, I mean, you say you get blocked, but you're ridiculously productive, dude. And it spins me out.
Yeah, I probably use my time really effectively and do a lot of things all at once.
Right.
which is probably the spoilers behind of what everything I do, is that I'll probably have a bunch of stuff and then just not show it all at the same time. I'll probably drip things through. I mean, like, I've still got shells just sat on the shelf, not made up yet, and
could have a couple in the can sort of for a rainy day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of like I've got a couple. I'm just like, I just need different color start and select button here, and it's just that process of going, I've got to order that start and select button, wait till it comes, and then it's like ridiculous. They're just like a small little thing, but I think by putting it off, it means that like I'm not overdoing myself all the time and just going, oh, I've got this, I've got to do it right now. And I like having that sort of, if I've got a really dead space and I need something to do, then I can just go, like you say, pick this one up for a rainy day. We get loads of rainy days, but I don't get loads of time on those rainy days.
And yet there are still shells unbuilt.
Exactly that.
I was going to say, so another aspect of Jamesyplays is Jamesy draws. So how does that differ from work and the Game Boy stuff? Because the Game Boy stuff should be, from as discussed, the more sort of artistic counterbalance to your kind of corporate graphic artwork. And then there's Jamesy draws. Is that just, do you just like, I don't know, take a bottle of scotch and just go bonkers and take your pants off and draw whatever you want?
I mean, realistically, I think it's just sort of like, so I could separate the two things really. So I do a lot of sketching, I do a lot of drawing, I do a lot of other things that perhaps the wider sort of like community that we're in probably don't really care too much about.
Don't say that.
Which is fair enough, because like not everybody's going to want to see a picture that I've drawn of the salivary gland or something. It's like, it's bonkers, but it's just sort of really somewhere that I can just park some of my drawings and some of my I feel like a complete like narcissist when I look at it, and I've just got I'm just following one person, which is myself, because with that it's more of just, I'm just putting this on there just so that I've
gallery
got a record of of what I'm doing, so so I can sort of like look back at it a little bit and go, all right, I've already done something like that, that reminds me of this, and I can try this in that style, and but it's just it's something that I've always been doing. And drawing wise, I really love drawing anatomy, but like I'm terrible at drawing faces, like actual faces, terrible at. So I think as I sort of did like my art courses and stuff when I was in school, I sort of realized that if I could get away with drawing and painting things that didn't involve faces, that was great. So I remember having Grey's Anatomy, not the TV show,
the book,
the book,
the medical textbook.
I think like I must have been like the only like second person to have taken that out in probably like about 30 years or something from our school library. And like I was just loving the sort of the style of the drawings, all that anatomical sort of like cutaways and things, which sounds really macabre when I start thinking about it now. But I was just really interested in the way that you could get the texture and the shape and just like try different styles. Like I think there's one on there of like the hip bone that I did, and that was like trying to get all like the because like people think of bone and they just think, oh, it's a white bone or whatever, but there's like so many like dimples and like pock marks and stuff in bones. And like I was like, this is like really fascinating me. So like I've really got into drawing that stuff.
It's a real blend of styles and skills, isn't it? Because you've sort of got your hatching and then the dots and I'm going to use like really layman terms, but you know, like there's shading and then there's shading and then there's detail, then there's I've never really thought of like, you see the cartoon bone just like this perfect white thing with a couple of knobs on the end, but in reality they don't grow like that. They have a life and they change shape and they have imperfection.
So that was when it took me on there, and I don't think many people want to see those on Game Boys. So like I thought, let's just separate this out a little bit. And
I reckon you need to rip one out. Like looking at things like some like even the bananas and the, just stuff that you've sort of done. Like, you never know. Someone might want a cutaway of the esophagus down the side of their Game Boy or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what's the plan? What's the plan? Are you just sort of kicking on and just enjoying the whole lot? Or are you one of those people that's like, if I could cut work time in half, I'd focus more on that or the Game Boy stuff?
No, I think it's more of the same, more of just sort of, I say more of the same, that sounds really boring, but just sort of kicking on and just like trying new things with it all. And I mean, I obviously shared something with you before we started recording,
yes, which
I'm swearing you secrecy about. And
yes. Okay, I hear now live. I promise I won't tell anybody. Yes.
So that's like a little project going on. And once again, like there's probably people out there who would get that project done in like a weekend, whereas like it's taken me a bit longer. But it's sort of just like taking the learnings that I've had over the past year, and just doing more. I think with me, if I spent more time on this, I'd probably end up like finding it a chore almost. Rather than anything else. So I think having this nice balance I've got is probably where I'll probably sit with it, and the end probably do some more shells for a few different people. And I know that you've asked me for a personal.
Oh yeah, I'm just like shut up and take my money, and you're like, hang on, just give me a bit. So that's like, okay. You don't rush an artist. I cannot work in these conditions. Sort of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I did go proper artist on you. I was like, just don't give me any money yet. I can't promise.
Yeah, I'll feel obligated, and then it won't be from the heart and all this, whatever. That's not really what you said, but that's what I heard, so it's fine.
That's exactly it. So.
And I guess sort of just calling back to what you were saying before about mental health, and being true with one of the, I guess. So you didn't really intend to, but you discovered one of the reasons why you sort of enjoyed playing with Game Boys. And was that kind of that relief, that removing of that pressure from yourself and those little wins and stuff. And as soon as you sort of shift the focus or shift the balance, the quantity, the quality, whatever it is, that perfect formula that's keeping you in a happy space, you allow that other stuff to sort of, because the more you push, the more you deliver, the more pressure you're going to put on yourself. And then you start to sort of hit that spiral again. So I think for people that are out there and are like maybe in a similar situation, if I guess I'm not giving advice on your behalf, but having sort of experience of 47 years, you can have some times. It's like, if you're happy doing what you're doing, just do what you're doing. Regardless of the likes or this or that or the other, like, you guys could be, there's 10 or 15 of you that have really kind of kicked off last case. It could be the 10 of you on a bloody island just reshelling for the rest of eternity. You'd be like, yeah, so you just find your space, you find your people, and you just keep doing it and enjoy it. And I think what I know about this community is that people are actually out there to make other people happy. As soon as you're like, I got this shell, someone's like, got buttons, got a screen, got a lens. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, whoa, party, high fives. And that's everybody's 6 people are happy. Like, how good is that?
That's it. I mean, the community is a great community, really. It really is. And there's so many people who encourage, and there doesn't seem to be a culture of toxicity, I suppose. I've been in some communities like you were saying with when you're in the Gunpla community. I mean, I don't know how that went, but
it's odd.
Like, say, when I was doing like the Transformers stuff, that community could be like the best community in the world one day, and then it just like completely go to shit the next day. So you're sort of like, it is a weird space, but I've genuinely found 99% of the people in this community that I've interacted with have just been like so supportive, so helpful, so grateful. And it is weird. It's weird.
it's a cult.
Way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's out there. It's a cult.
Cult.
Yeah. And I think the important part is that in any community or any group, and as a family unit, when you're at home with your wife and your daughter and your whatever, your granddad, and that and I have these conversations with people I work with that kind of like, oh, these people on Facebook, they're this. And I just watch Facebook for a couple of hobbies. I don't participate. I keep some photos there for myself because it's easier than keeping a million gig on my phone. And it's like, they blame Liz. And I'm like, yeah, but you're conversing with them. So you're just throwing fuel on their fire. If we just ignored the dead shits, they'd stop talking and they'd all go away.
Yeah.
And I just think this community just hasn't given people the opportunity to be a dick about it. And then when they do, they're like, I'm not being heard. Guess I'll just go somewhere else. And that is the perfect defense. Just kind of like, beat them with love and kindness. And it seems stupid, but it is a really good way of going about it. And it's effective. Yeah. So, everything's awesome, I guess. And you're just going to keep punching out these is like, I mean, when you find something like the Bayside and Saved by the Bell style, like, I guess the options and the possibilities, because you're really looking at, because you've expressed that you're kind of big on detail and getting it right, then no two are the same, right? So it's kind of like an endless sort of machine of just punching these out. Like you could just do it for evs.
Yeah, I mean, I love doing the decal ones because they are it's very much like with Kelly with the marbling stuff, is that no two will be the same because I'll never get the positioning completely right. I mean, the UV printing from retro modding will be pretty much exactly the same all the time. But just doing things with decals and stuff, it's the tactile sort of nature of like graphic design and stuff that I enjoy as well. So that's like that plays a big part in it, and I just love doing it. Really.
Do you mind elaborating on the decal stuff? Are you talking about like water slides?
Yeah, water slide decals. So I did a little tutorial a while ago on Instagram about it. Sort of like, so I'll design them, I'll print them onto clear water slide decals, and then trim them up, place them on, seal them up with acrylic sealant and all that sort of stuff. And because like I didn't have access to a UV printer or anything like that, so I was like, how the hell do I get my designs onto this how I want them to? And then that seemed the best option, really.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't realize they were water slides. Like I've done a bunch of Gunpla. Like there's a big red guy back there, the Sazabi, and it's like it actually kind of nearly broke me because I had to build it like 3 times and clear coat it and build it up and then do some other stuff and then build up. But there's like, and some of the water slides on that, because this thing's like 14 inches high, but a human being's kind of like, 2/3 of an inch. So it's massive. But the water slides on it are like, some of them are like 3 to 5 mil in length. And there's actually like a warning, don't touch this, as a nuclear reactor. And I've spent hours here just putting them on. And there must be like over 300 water slides on that kit. And I can see now, and then when you do your final clear coat to seal it up and protect it, I can see there's a satisfaction to getting it just how you want it. And I mean, some people might look at what you do and go, it's a bit random, and you're like, no, you leave.
No, a lot of
that is not random. There is a science to what I'm doing here, sir.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, look, I've really, really enjoyed meeting you, and I'm sure everybody's enjoyed hearing from you. I know everybody appreciates when, you've known someone and they hear your voice, and those people are special, and, they especially appreciate hearing from you. We all enjoy just meeting everybody, and, you definitely, there's a few kind of rails I think a few people try to jump on, a few art styles, and yours is definitely one that I think people really kind of cling to, and just they feel that kind of that your Game Boys, I think, make people happy. I think that's the key to everything. So, look, if you've got anybody you want to plug or anybody you want to send a hug to, or new up and comers or anything like that, now's your opportunity. You can just say, love yous all, see you at the next gig. That's also fine, because some people find a little bit of pressure. I've got one quick one, Pixel package. So it's Pixel dot package. Now, this is not Game Boy related, but it's pretty rad. This person group, whatever they make. This kind of little acrylic boxes, and it's like a diorama. So they like, a lot of them is Pokemon. So they'd be like the back board. It's like a 3-layered diorama. And yeah, you can buy them and you can request them, and it's pretty amazing. There's everything. There's Zelda, there's Pokemon, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, I encourage people to go and check out pixel.package. And yeah, you'll help an artist put a meal on the table. You just never know. So yeah, your turn if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, so I anticipated this, so I made some notes.
Oh, good job.
But when I started making these notes, it was quite a few weeks ago. So like you've already some people on the podcast.
Yeah, so everybody comes up, everybody gets their shot.
Yeah, so Joe was on my list. I mean, he's a great guy. And like obviously I mentioned our little sort of like Game Boy gang, shall we say? Kelsey, Gloom Reigns, Yesterday's Tech, Kelly at Next Up Please, and Peg City 8-bit. Marky Pie, I want to give a big shout out to. Not that he needs like the shout outs because he's got like 1 billion followers, but he is just the loveliest guy, and like we talk so much, and he's helped me a lot over the past year, both in this but also sort of like personally he's helped me a lot. Then there are a couple of people that I do want to give shout outs to, sort of because they're probably not as big and as flashy as some people are on the gram. One of them is Faceless Tech. He's on Instagram. He's not long joined Instagram, but like some of the stuff he does is like amazing. He's just redesigned the Game Boy Macro front plate as well, but definitely people need to be looking at him. And there's the Game Boy Genie. I
was looking at his printed front shells the other day and going, okay, I like it. Yep.
Lovely guy.
Yeah.
And I've already mentioned Cypher Design. He's been absolutely a great help to me all the way through this. So I really want to give him a shout out as well. But then like there's just so many people that you could shout out. But I truly appreciate everybody that takes the moment to like look at my stuff, like my stuff, follow me. I mean, there's a massive imposter syndrome a lot of the time with it. So I just want to say a big thank you, everybody, and just let me come on here, really.
Yeah,
and chat about whatever I do.
And, chat neighbors, and thanks for Coronation Street. That was awesome. And I enjoy this too. Part of this is sort of going back again, like my own therapy. Like I'm actually an introvert, but I really like people, which seems odd. It's like someone that's like scared of snakes but loves to go to the reptile pavilion. There's sort of like and it's like we traveled a lot over the last sort of 9 years, and not being able to travel there's a beauty in traveling because you can sort of go and you can meet someone somewhere, and then you can have a conversation, be totally legit with them, and walk away and knowing you're never going to see them again. And there's something very sort of intimate about that one sort of interaction. And so I have missed people, and this has been really awesome just to meet people like this. And everybody's so great and positive. So, mate, I appreciate everybody that comes on and kicks the can. It's always for us. And good times indeed. And
brilliant.
No pressure, but I would like to give you some money and get one of your shells, please.
We'll sort that afterwards.
All right, no worries. All right, buddy. Well,
thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for squeezing me in, and I hope the rest of your day is nice and productive and everything goes good for you.
For real. Thanks very much, mate.
All right, buddy. We'll catch you soon.